Hello, bonjour, namaste, ni hao, and ohio everybody. What is going on? It is Galeriot here, and welcome back to the YouTube channel once again for another Danmachi Battle Chronicle video. And today we are going to be checking out the revenue report for Danmachi Battle Chronicle in the month of January using the Sensor Tower monthly revenue report. Of course, this video will probably lead to a lot of people thinking one thing about Danmachi Battle Chronicle, but I would urge you guys to watch the entirety of this video because today we are going to be discussing whether or not the revenue report tells a complete story in regards to Danmachi Battle Chronicle's, existence effectively, or is there something more to it? Of course, like I said, please watch the entirety of this video, and of course, if you guys go on to enjoy it, remember to leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below at the end of the video. Let me know, do you guys agree with me, disagree with me? Is there any points that I made that you guys didn't think about, or vice versa as well? You guys thought of some points that I didn't think about, and of course, that might make a difference. So let me know in the comment section down below. Now, of course, like always, we always get these monthly revenue reports at the start of every month, and you can see right here, we have games like Genshin, Nikkei, Fate Grand Order, Honkai Star Rail, Uma Musume, and so on and so forth as part of this list. Now, of course, in particular, what we're looking for is Danmachi Battle Chronicle. And as you can see here, this is, of course, the version split up. So the Japanese version of Danmachi Battle Chronicle, for one, made $300,000 in the month of January, whereas in December, it made $600,000. If you take a look at the global version, oh my god, the voice crack, the global version of the game made $110,000 versus $140,000 in December. Now, of course, if you compare it to some of the games in and around it, I mean, the likes of Black Clover M, which I am very surprised that it's doing so terribly in Japan. I thought Black Clover would have done better, but, it is what it is. But there are some other relatively popular games in and around it as well. Bang Dream is a rhythm gacha game that's, very well known. Alchemy Stars, Counterside. And then if we go over to, of course, the JP version of the game, which is, of course, somewhere around here, you're still around the likes of an Atelier, an Octopath Traveler, and so on and so forth. Now, the thing is, if we combine the two totals, right, you get $410,000 in the month of January versus $740,000 in December. Now, of course, that is nearly half the revenue cut, basically, in that 1 month, right? And a lot of people will immediately probably say, well, shit, the game is dying. Like, come on, it's gotta be at the nearing end of service, surely, right? Well, first and foremost, I would like to make one point in regards to, revenue as a whole. It's really a hard thing to say as to how well a game is doing because everybody's expectations, the costs involved in the game, and just generally the desires of the production team and the people behind licensing the IP, in this case, Danmachi's IP, it depends on what they want from the game. In terms of revenue, it depends on what they want from the game. If it's not doing well, then of course they're going to be mad. But of course, if it does well, then they'll be okay. It just depends on their targets, realistically, right? It depends on their targets because there are some games on this list like Artery Gear and Higan that for the last 7-8 months, I swear down, have been making the same revenue again and again and again, and they haven't hit end of service. But at the same time, a game recently that, announced its end of service, at least globally, was Tactop Symphony. It literally announced it at the time of this recording. Today, they announced the end of service for the global version, which is really disappointing to see. I really had high hopes for that game, but it ended up being very meh, in all honesty. So there is that point. Now, the first thing I would like to say in regards to this, this specific Sensor Tower report is I don't know how much to believe it because of two reasons in particular. So first reason, if we go to over another website that I personally use quite a bit as well for Danmachi, I used it for Danmemo because Sensor Tower never gave a good report for Danmemo. Like, I would always try and look at Danmemo's report and it would never give me the right information for Danmemo's JP sales. So what I decided to do is I went to Danmachi Battle Chronicle sales here to see exactly how it performed in the month of January, which is, of course, this number right here. So this number right here is 86.58 million yen. So if we were to convert that into USD, which is, of course, the same amount that is being used in the Sensor Tower reports, right? If we convert that, that is $585,000. So I don't know. And I mean, if I am wrong in the translation and we do this basically, it would basically be a tenth of it, which is not possible, right? So what I do think is that, you know, obviously every site and every game has their own estimates. The thing is, right, especially Sensor Tower, what they do is that they tend to effectively use very much, what is it called? I think the word here, the best word here, I don't want to, you know, be wrong with this word, but they tend to give very good estimates is the best way to put it. I think is the best. I think that's the only word I can use. I wasn't sure of exactly what word to use, but they use a bunch of algorithms and just data such as downloads, game active players, and so on and so forth. And then they go ahead and give you that information. Whereas this website, from my understanding, is that it uses multiple sources, not just Sensor Tower. It uses Sensor Tower as well, but it uses a bunch of other sources as well to get a number. And of course, if it is accurate and more accurate than Sensor Tower, well, the JP version of the game has made $600,000, right? So that's something to bear in mind. Now, another thing that has come out very recently, and I will be leaving a link to this article in the description down below. I've actually talked about it already on my second channel with the whole Genshin drama and the fact that people are boycotting Genshin, which, let's be real, that failed miserably. I'm not gonna lie, that is failing miserably. But if we take a look at something a games industry vet has said about gacha games, he's worked on publishing gacha games and stuff like that, and he has been verified by the moderator team of r/gacha gaming, so he is who he says he is. He went on to actually say here, and this is the first question that came up in the comment section: how accurate is Sensor Tower in estimating gacha revenue? Is it actually more or less than the estimate? He goes on to respond immediately saying, Sensor Tower always underreports for all of the gacha games listed. All of them are making more than what is listed. So clearly, this number, even if it is a little bit lower than this, I do believe this number as well is underreported, by the way. Both of these numbers are less than what the games are actually making. So instead of, let's take this number, $600,000, and the $110,000 that, of course, Global made, right? $710,000. They're probably making about $900,000 or at least $1 million instead. Probably. You have to remember, when he says underreport, he doesn't say it's slightly underreported. He doesn't say it's vastly underreported. So we have to take an estimate of like a 1.5 times or 1.25 times, just a small increase in the revenue count from like 700,000 to 1 million, basically, right? Surely that should be the case, right? So that is another thing to keep in mind, is that the money that they're probably getting is actually way more than what we know. And obviously it depends on, and more so than anything else, the other reason why I'm also like so hesitant to say that these are bad numbers, because we don't really know. Well, two things. The reason why I say that we don't really know exactly why this number is bad is because, one, we don't know the costs of the game. We don't know how much it costs them to develop and publish the game every single, or publish and update the game every so often, right? We don't know, right? We don't exactly know as to what the situation is in that regards, right? We cannot tell what the situation is in that regards. But the other thing as well, right, is that these reports, this report, the Sensor Tower report, both of them are only for mobile apps. That's it. No PC application is counted. The number Genshin makes, $35 million, that's only on mobile. That's not including PC. Same with games like Honkai Star Rail. Same with games like, JJK Phantom Parade isn't on PC just yet, but it inevitably is going to be. But any of these games that are also on PC are not included. Their sales are not included in this. And recently, another game that was actually very close to Danmachi Battle Chronicle in terms of sales in the Sensor Tower report, Snowbreak Containment Zone, recently had a developer interview where they announced that the revenue had doubled and the PC revenue was accounting for more than 70% of the revenue. If that is the case here, we know the issues Danmachi Battle Chronicle has when it comes to the mobile app. We've spoken about this. So many people have told me that, they have loading issues, they have this issues, they have that issues. It's very likely that most players are playing on PC. So I wouldn't be surprised, and especially with the JP client being a thing, and you guys know what I tell you guys about the JP client in terms of cheaper prices and stuff like that. People are probably spending on the JP client way more than any of the other applications, purely because it's A, cheaper, and B, it's on PC, so it's much more easily accessible compared to, of course, buying stuff on mobile and then using it on mobile, right? So that's another thing to keep in mind, is that the PC revenue is probably, I would say, about the same as Snowbreak's. 70% of the revenue is probably from the PC version of the game, maybe even arguably 80% as well, right? We have to keep that in mind as well, is that this number, it could just be a very big question mark in terms of like, yeah, it's bad, but like there's so many other factors to consider that I feel like a lot of people will probably look at this, like I said at the start of the video, and say that, yeah, Danmachi Battle Chronicle is going to be dying in the next couple of months, for sure. But I'm there like, well, yes, if you're looking at this number individually, which is something I used to do quite a bit when I was newer to gacha games. Not even newer to gacha games, actually. I would say a year or two into gacha games, I would be doing this. I would be looking at the numbers, I would be looking at the revenues, and I'd be like saying, oh, that game's doing bad, this game's doing bad, that game's doing bad, without thinking really, it might be doing better on something else. And importantly as well, keep that in mind, importantly, whenever they do decide to drop Danmachi Battle Chronicle on the PlayStation, which God knows where that is also going to be another revenue stream for them as well. Now, I don't know if it's going to be releasing on PlayStation anymore based on the fact that there's no information on it. I think it's basically the same as Genshin Impact on the Switch, basically, where it's not going to be coming out anymore. But if they do decide to release it on the PlayStation, that is another revenue stream that will get them money as well. So overall, the reason why I wanted to make this video is because I had a couple of people come to me in live streams and in the comment section of my videos saying the game's gonna die. The game's gonna die, and you know, it's looking really bleak for the game, right? We'll just have to wait for the next game, right? And while I do agree that the next game, I think, well, knock on wood, does better in the near future, right now we have to live with Danmachi Battle Chronicle, and I still like the game to an extent. I do think that there are good things that are coming from the game. I've been seeing that the stories have been getting improvements. I know a lot of people have seen an improvement in the two most recent stories. So I do think that there is positive signs for the game, but they just need to keep going in the right direction, and they just got to keep their chin up when it comes to this game. But we'll have to wait and see on that front. But yeah, to just give you guys a TLDR and to give you guys a bit of a rundown on exactly what we talked about today. So first and foremost, Sensor Tower, well, we don't know if this number is exactly right, because according to other websites, it's actually $600,000 that they've made, at least only on the JP version. This is, of course, $300,000 according to Sensor Tower. Second point, Sensor Tower underreports the amount of money that these games make always. So that's also something to bear in mind, is that we don't exactly know if this is even the exact amount that they're making, or are they making potentially double that or triple that or even 1.5 times that. So we'll have to wait and see on that front. I mean, that is also something to consider. Thirdly, costs come into play. We don't know how much it's costing them to develop these characters and models and stuff like that. I mean, there might be a reason as to why they're, you know, just repeating certain models, because they don't want to, you know, spend extra time and money to develop new characters. Potentially, that might be the reason as to why we've not gotten a new character outside of Artemis in the last 6 months, or well, I would say last 3 months, because we did get Otarl and Freya as well, right? So something to keep in mind as well there, right? And then finally, PC revenue is not being accounted for by a lot of players. And of course, if it's anything like Snowbreak, PC revenue is probably accounting for 70% of the revenue. So in that situation, if this is only 30%, or $600,000 is only 30%, 70% of the revenue is probably like around $1 million to 1.5 million, basically, right there, effectively, if not a little bit more, if I'm not mistaken. So in that regards, you know, basically accounting for all of these things, Danmachi Battle Chronicle is probably still doing well enough to survive. Now, the question is, when the new game drops, what's going to be the impact, you know? And also, generally, the half anniversary is probably one of the big make or break moments for the game, you know, in terms of, you know, the banner, the content that they're going to be dropping, and so on and so forth, the campaigns and whatnot. So we'll have to wait and see there. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please be sure to leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, take it easy, everybody. Bye bye.